Christmas, the time for family, giving, and horror movies. Specifically, Christmas-themed horror movies. In this top 10 list, I'm going to be counting down a wide variety of Christmas horror films. So sit back, relax, subscribe to the channel, and enjoy the video. At number 10 is the 1997 horror comedy Jack Frost. The week before Christmas, a truck carrying serial killer Jack Frost to his execution crashes into a genetics truck. His body then mutates and fuses together with the snow, and he comes back as a killer snowman to take revenge on the sheriff who caught him. This is one of those movies that I consider so bad that it's good. I always have the best time with Jack Frost. It's pure late 90s nostalgia. It's got cheesy practical effects, and the comedy I find hilarious, but it's also very lowbrow. I find the characters a lot of fun, and every single one of them seems to be in on the joke that what they're making is just a silly horror comedy. If you've never seen Jack Frost, go into it with an open mind. You'll have an awesome time with this super wacky and hilariously dumb little movie. At number 9 is Silent Night. The police force of a remote Midwestern town search for a killer Santa Claus who's brutally murdering people on Christmas Eve. Silent Night is a loose remake of Silent Night, Deadly Night, which will be later on this list. Just like with Silent Night, Deadly Night, Silent Night is brutal. There are some kills in this film that made my jaw drop. The practical effects are really well done, especially for a film that's relatively small. The killer Santa Claus is badass and intimidating, and I really enjoyed the cast, especially Jamie King and Malcolm McDowell, who chews up every single scene that he's in. If you've never seen Silent Night, definitely give this one a watch, especially if you're a gorehound. At number 8 is the 2015 anthology film A Christmas Horror Story. Interwoven stories that take place on Christmas Eve as told by one festive radio host played by William Shatner. The 4 stories follow a family that bring home a Christmas tree but get more than what they bargained for. A group of students work on a documentary, but it quickly becomes a living nightmare. A Christmas spirit terrorizes a family, and Santa slays an ancient evil. This was a film that I discovered on Shudder a couple of years ago, and ever since then, this has been a part of my Christmas rotation every year. I enjoy the combination of fantasy and supernatural horror, as well as how effortlessly all 4 stories are threaded together. This is one of the more solid anthology films that have come out over the recent years that I can't recommend enough. At number 7 is Michael Daughtry's Krampus. A dysfunctional family squabble causes a young boy to lose his festive spirit. This unleashes the wrath of Krampus, who punishes children at Christmas. As Krampus lays siege to the neighborhood along with his minions, the family must band together to save one another from a monstrous fate. One of the big things that I love about Krampus is the cast, specifically how many character actors are in this film. So much of the film hinges on the audience becoming attached to this family despite how dysfunctional they are. Because even within this dysfunction, they're still family and they still look out for one another. The creature designs and the combination of practical and CGI work really well together and feel seamless. This is a prime example of how to do mainstream PG-13 horror right. At number 6 is the 1989 French horror film Deadly Games, also known as Dial Code Santa Claus. On Christmas Eve, a resourceful young boy has to defend himself and his grandfather from a killer dressed up as Santa Claus. I only heard about this film about 2 or 3 months ago because of Vinegar Syndrome, and because the film is now on Shudder, I decided to give it a watch, and I'm so glad that I did. What a fantastic hidden little gem that's full of suspense and action and real stakes and horror. I couldn't believe how dark this film got. It's basically the hardcore version of Home Alone. I recently did a deep dive review with my good buddy Burton on my annual Christmas special. If you'd like to hear our full spoiler review of Deadly Games, I've left a card up above where you can go and check that out, and I'll leave a link in the description below as well. Rounding out the top 5 is Christmas Evil. A toy factory worker, mentally scarred as a child upon learning Santa Claus is not real, suffers a nervous breakdown after being belittled at work and embarks on a killing spree. Talk about criminally underrated. Christmas Evil is a film that I feel isn't given the credit that it deserves. Christmas Evil is both unnerving as well as very charming. Unnerving because the character of Harry is unhinged right from the get-go. We know that he's a ticking time bomb. And despite the film getting under my skin, I find it charming because of the direction, the sound design, as well as the performance by Brandon Maggart. I can't help but love this film, and when watching it, it feels like I'm truly kicking off Christmas. If you'd like to hear my full thoughts on Christmas Evil, check out my full review. I've left a card up above as well as a link in the description. At number 4 is the 2016 horror comedy, Better Watch Out. On a quiet suburban street, a babysitter must defend a 12-year-old boy from intruders, only to discover it's far from a normal home invasion. Better Watch Out is a film that grew on me. The first time I watched it, I really didn't like it. The second time I watched it, however, I enjoyed it a hell of a lot more. On my most recent rewatch for my annual Christmas special, I absolutely loved this film. Despite the film being very funny and having some great comedic moments, it also gets super dark, and that fuses really well with the comedy. It strikes that perfect balance. There's also some really great action scenes that are full of suspense, as well as smartly written characters with witty dialogue, along with a cast that has not one single weak link. Taking the number 3 spot is Joe Dante's classic Gremlins. What is there to say about Gremlins that hasn't already been said? Even after all these years, Gizmo still tugs on my heartstrings. Like a lot of people, this is super nostalgic. I grew up with Gremlins along with the sequel, so no matter what, I'm always gonna love this film. And it's one that I always watch at Christmas time. There's some great practical effects, a fantastic cast, unique and creative creature designs with their own distinct personalities really set this film apart from other family-friendly Christmas films. It's a film that both kids and adults can enjoy, and it's also a great gateway film for introducing someone to horror and creature features. Coming in at number 2 is the 1984 cult classic slasher, Silent Night, Deadly Night. Billy suffers from PTSD over witnessing his parents' murder on Christmas Eve by a man in a Santa Claus costume. His upbringing in an abusive Catholic orphanage leads him into a psychological breakdown, and he begins a killing spree, donning a Santa suit. I love this lean, mean little slasher. This is full of some of the most iconic slasher kills, from Linnea Quigley being impaled onto antlers, to a suitably gory decapitation, along with depictions of intense child abuse at the hands of Mother Superior. And although the tone may be a little off here and there, it ends up lending itself to that exploitative tone. Check out my full review in the card above or in the link in my description. And finally, at number 1 is Bob Clark's slasher classic, Black Christmas. The story follows a group of sorority sisters who receive threatening phone calls and are eventually stalked and murdered by a deranged killer. Black Christmas is my favorite slasher film of all time. This to me is perfection. Not only because of Bob Clark's fantastic direction and the story's suitably somber tone, but it's the characters that really pull me into this film. Olivia Hussey, Margot Kidder, and John Saxon are powerhouses in this film. The character of Billy and the voice acting of that character is creepy and always makes my skin crawl. If you'd like to hear my thoughts on Black Christmas, check out my full review at the card above or in the link in the description below. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And if you'd like to support the channel even more, get your name in the opening credits along with some other awesome perks, become a Patreon today. Link is in the description below. Thank you so much for coming by, and I'll see you guys on the next video.